sell you a phone or something. So I don't know how to get it.
All right, guys. It's 3 minutes after the hour. Tuesday night, 5 p.m. Downtown Ubud. It's time for the filter. You guys ready to do this?
Yes.
All right. Tuesday, January 31st, 2017. This is the filter number 112. We've done this 111 times already. We're going to do it at least one more time tonight. We've got a really good show. Well, we're going to cover local news. We've got a little bit of local news going on. Not much, but a little bit. We're going to go around the world, as we sometimes do. We've got news from the Czech Republic. Got news from Bulgaria. Not really new news from Bulgaria, but something's going on in Bulgaria. We're going to go to China, like we usually do, and also Venezuela. Those two countries just keep coming up over and over again. We're going to talk about something called the Satoshi Roundtable. This hit your radar this week, the Satoshi Roundtable. Well, we've been talking a lot about Bitcoin scalability, and all of the bigwigs, the muckety-mucks, had a private meeting about how to fix Bitcoin. And, well, some of the most important people were a no-show. So that'll be a little bit interesting to talk about. We're going to do a little Bitcoin health check, take a look at what's going on with the Bitcoin network and the proposed scaling solutions or lack of scaling solutions. Also in the news, we've got our man Griff Green. Did you guys see the Griff Green interview? He's got a new undertaking, new smart contract-based undertaking for charitable giving. So we've been talking about charitable giving using cryptocurrencies lately, and but this is something new. So we'll see what he's up to. And he does an interview with the folks from Bitcoin Uncensored, right? We've talked about the Bitcoin Uncensored guys. These are the guys who like to take their shirts off. They like to give people a hard time. If you refuse to do an interview on their show, they like mock you repeatedly. They might get a URL with your name in it and like put all kinds of stuff all over it. I mean, they're ruthless. And Griff Green did an interview with them. That's one of the reasons why we're going to talk about his little undertaking. But they like to call things a Ponzi scheme. They like to, when they attack the people that on their show, they like to say, well, it's just a Ponzi. You're a Ponzi. Your idea is a Ponzi. Your Ponzi is a Ponzi. They like that word a lot. And I want to talk with you about the question, what is a Ponzi?
You're a Ponzi.
I am a Ponzi. I'm just looking for new investors to pay off the old ones. So that's what we're going to do. Let's kick things off here, guys. Let me share my screen. Come on in. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. All right. Now everybody should be seeing our screen. Tuesday, January 31st, the filter number 112. Hopefully these screens are going to show up here. Oh, I almost forgot. We've also got a special segment by our man Willie Woo, and he's got a new offering. He's got something new going on woobull.com that he can tell us about, along with his little update. So, and we're going to do that like almost right off the top. All right, local news. Check this out. You might not recognize this. This is bitcoinsinbali.org. We've got a little countdown clock here. 13 days from now, we're going to be in this very room. Basically 2 weeks from now, we're going to have a new website and maybe some new stuff going on the website. So hang on to your hats and don't miss that episode that night 2 weeks from now, because it's gonna, not only is there a new website, but there's some other really cool things happening. So 2 weeks from now, what's that?
At midnight.
At midnight? Is that what it says?
Yep.
At midnight, like as in, well, we're not going to meet at midnight, but maybe the website will go live at midnight the day before you get there. Are you gonna be waiting on the edge of your seat, like hitting refresh on your browser? F5, like that's, you know. Yeah, 2 weeks from now we're gonna have a very special episode, so don't miss that. All right, let's talk about the price. We're in Indonesia. We're up over 12.5 million Indonesian rupiah per Bitcoin. That's about $936 US. The dollar index is a little bit lower than that, $931.72 for one Bitcoin. What's happened over the course of the last week since we got together? Can you guys see that? It's a little bit hard to see. There we go. We had a bit of a little dip in the price down below. What is that? It went down to about 880, 884, 886. But it's been real boring for the last 5 or 6 days. Lots of consolidation happening, right? If you're a technical trader, the volume's going down and the price is staying stable. And that usually, they call that a pennant pattern. And sometimes that indicates that something exciting will happen. But it hasn't happened yet. Here is something that was posted on the price. I think, Will, you posted this in the group. What drove Bitcoin's big price comeback? And you can see this is the Bitcoin price over time. I can't see. And there's various things happening, like kind of markers along the way, like the digital currencies price rallies after the Brexit. We had a little price bump after the Brexit. Then we had the price fall after the Bitfinex hack. Here we've got November 8th, the election day. That's also the day India demonetized their 2 largest banknotes. That drove the price up, especially in India. Of course, we've got all the crisis in Venezuela happening shortly after that. And here's a new one. I wasn't aware of this one. I don't know if we talked about this. Remind me if we did. Goldman Sachs warns of billions of dollars leaving China every month as yuan weakens.
Yes.
I think we talked in general about the yuan weakening, but I don't know why Goldman Sachs gets the scoop on this one. That was kind of general knowledge, wasn't it?
I thought that was spin. Like the general consensus was weakening yuan, but they just put a brand name up there.
Well, this is Fortune, so maybe they get like a little kickback every time they mention the name Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
They're probably owned by them through some weird ass paper trail.
Yeah.
Can I just mention that all of these events don't necessarily mean that they've caused this price change. These are just correlations, not necessarily causation.
Yes. Although the graph implies causation, isn't that what the graph is trying to tell you? I mean, I know causation
does not imply causation, apparently.
Well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily imply causation. Like you can have 2 things that are correlated that are totally unrelated, right? And it could be other things that affect the price. But I mean, whenever you're looking at a graph, you're trying to correlate some metric, right?
Yeah.
The general thing with all of this Bitcoin speculation is that just because money's leaving China, for example, doesn't mean any of the Chinese are using it as capital flight route, but all the Bitcoin speculators buy it up. So it reacts.
Thinking.
It kind of overreacts. It's a bit like Greece. I think Antonopoulos said, he's Greek, and he says, I tell you, there's no Greek that can use Bitcoin to, hedge out this thing. It's just all the speculators betting on it.
Yeah, well, the original price run up in 2013 that corresponded with Cyprus having their bail-ins. I mean, it wasn't a bunch of Cypriots buying Bitcoin. It was everybody kind of taking a look at the scene and saying, oh, well, Bitcoin would be good if you'd be in better shape if you had some Bitcoin if you were in Cyprus. But it wasn't actual Cypriots buying the Bitcoin.
It's just reactive.
It is.
It's to rumors.
This is more support that we're still in the speculation zone, right? Because it's not a good store of value if it's so subject to news items. If there is a true correlation between news items and the price, then it is a speculative instrument and not a store of value, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Or it pushes you along that continuum.
I mean, it's dominated by utility, then the speculation aspect will probably be outweighed and would wiggle less.
Yes, the more you have a circular economy, the more Bitcoin is actually useful as money or anything else, then the speculative nature of it dissipates, right? So this last little dip, though, is rumors of Chinese crackdown on capital flight caused by belly flop when Bitcoin bulls sober up. That's kind of a loaded statement.
But that dip was a while ago, though, yeah.
Is it the aircon or the earthquake?
That's the wind blowing the...
Yeah, maybe an earthquake. We live in the ring of fire.
Tremor.
It's always exciting here in Bali.
just a truck.
We live on the edge.
How long
We
ago
buy
was it?
Bitcoin and live near a volcano.
Last dip, how long ago was it?
What's that?
The last dip there, how long ago was it?
Well, what did we come off of here? Was this the
That was
the
all-time
1100?
high.
And
All-time
this is like-
high got in front of me about 4th. Wasn't it the 4th of January? It's really-
I wonder why this doesn't go up over 1,000. This little peak was over 1,000, was it not?
Yeah, it was 1140 on Bitstamp.
Yeah.
So they probably smoothed it.
Yeah.
What do you reckon? Probably a smooth value.
All right. So with all this price going up and down, what's the volatility? Let's take a look at charts.wooble.com, Bitcoin volatility.
Oh my gosh.
Last week we were at 8.8%, and now we're down to 8.1% for the trailing 60-day volatility. That's a big change week over week, it seems to me.
What's the volatility of the volatility calculation?
What exactly do you mean? Well, I'll let you take that. Actually, well, this red line is the actual volatility. Like, see this? Wait, let me see this red line.
You
This
could
is
run
the
volatility on that graph. I could do it. I don't know. We
What?
could see.
I don't know what
what's
it's going to tell you.
happening.
But this is a regression line of the actual volatility, and presumably this 8.1% is some average of the last 60 days.
So was it? The what was what?
This number, this is
That's
like an
a
average.
No, when you do volatility, you're running a standard deviation calculation, right? So you take every single day that's been 60 samples,
Mm-hmm.
and you look at how much it's jumping up and down within the 60.
Okay.
And so it's saying within 8.1%, you're on one standard deviation. That means, if you remember, it means is it 67% of the time you'll be within 8.1% of the
Yeah.
range of the price.
Yeah, that's clear.
I mean, why have we got New Zealand dollars on this graph? I mean, who cares about New Zealand dollars?
Well, it's actually the most volatile of the high volume traded currencies. So that's the higher range of forex volatility, and the fat line should be the lower range. So it's the top and the bottom.
And Will's from New Zealand, and he's pumping New Zealand. Right?
Yeah, I don't hold much New Zealand dollars
No?
for a New Zealander.
All
But
right.
hey, it's interesting. Yeah, you can see it's quite predictable when it peaked. You can go, oh yeah, that was a peaking, just that recent one in January,
This week?
and you can almost see it. This is going to come down. And you see that in trading because it's like, wow, massive price movement. It's got to consolidate and take a rest. And you'll see it in the price in the grey up there. You'll see those times where it goes ape shit, and then it's got to take a rest. Because even price has to be sustainable.
So when this approaches the actual regression line, does that mean it's ready for a breakout? Is that how you?
I would
Might
say
read it.
when it gets down to the bottom, but nothing's for sure. If you look at past times, it's usually oscillates and completes a full wave. So I reckon maybe. Actually, I've done some numbers and analysis, and it looks like April, May is the next time it's going to go apeshit. Probably if it breaks all-time high of whatever, 11.
If you were to take the wave and look at it through a spectral analyzer, what does that look like?
The wave of volatility or price?
The red one.
The red one.
Do some spectral analysis on it, actually.
Yeah, I've been meaning to do a fast Fourier transform on it, but I haven't had time.
Oh, a
yet.
fast Fourier transform. Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
It's just the
What about the
standard
time
engineering transform.
Rather than the
It's
time
just,
transform.
it's actually what your stereo does to your sound wave, and you get that cool boom boom spectral analyzer. And it's just a,
You
it's
tried
just
playing it on
a
speakers?
cool frequency analysis.
What about the ball
You
bearings?
tried listening to
Did
it.
you check the ball bearings?
Yeah, that's probably would work.
It's all ball
Actually,
bearings.
if you then fed it through a sound system, you could get your brain to analyze the audio patterns.
Yeah.
and
Maybe there's a
you'd probably
message.
pick up
Maybe it's
more.
a message from God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sound.
I think we should. I think we're going to do a segment
That
from
was in
Edmund on that
context.
next week.
Can't say you never know. There's all these patterns, everything, and like listening to it, you might pick up a pattern that you won't see.
Yeah.
You never know.
All right.
Oh.
Will, I got you on top, man. You ready to take over here?
Yeah, give me
Let's do this.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I need your computer.
Okay.
I'll take the keyboard and the mouse.
Take it away.
All right. Tony Mark's not here, because I was going to ask: does anyone here trade altcoins, trade markets? Yeah, see, it's
Trevor's
not the people that I was like, because like I always say everyone should learn to trade a little bit, not big, just a little, because when you trade, you learn how markets fundamentally operate, and that's good. I mean, like, say you live here and you're from another country and you got to bring money in, and you're always wondering, what's the foreign exchange rate? Well, if you know how to trade, you can look at those lines and go, oh, it's heading up to a resistance, oh, it's a support level. You know when it's peaking, when it's in a trough, and where generally when the best time to convert is. And it's also the same with everything. Stock markets, you're going to buy a house, when's the best time to buy in the cycle?
Pork bellies.
Yep, yeah,
And applesauce.
yeah, all that. Pork belly futures, derivative contracts on pork bellies, all that stuff. It's all.
So is that happening here in this graph?
It's all in these. Is this even connected? Am I getting? Oh, yep. Here we go. So, since you guys are in Bitcoin, it's really nice to, I thought, run you through something you could do, and that is trade altcoins. You can put in like $100, whatever, and start trading. And just expect you'll get cleaned out like you're going to the casinos, because you will be, till you learn. Because it is like, see, it's not gambling as such, though it will be when you start, because you don't know what you're doing. But after a while, you realize that there's actually real technical skill in it, so it's more skills based, like any other sport, and I just wanted to say, if you wanted to try it, jump over to Poloniex, which is one of actually the biggest cryptocurrency markets. It's actually way up there in the top 3 traded, including the Bitcoin exchanges in volume, now that China's gone legit. And like you can see, this is the volume being traded every day. Like Indonesia on a really good day, the Bitcoin exchange does about 1,000, is it? 1,000 Bitcoins? Any one of these markets within Poloniex trades, this is how much we're trading. See, like Made is trading 1,000 Bitcoins. Ethereum is trading 2,500. And so I thought I'd just give you guys some tips if you're going to do this. So like markets have a natural efficiency. Now efficiency is like how quickly does the market react to information in the world. And that means the more people trading it, the more efficient the market, and the harder it is to get an edge on everyone else in the market. And so if you look at Bitcoin, it trades in the, what was it? It used to be like 36 billion per week, but now it's way less. But it's in the per day, off the top of my head, maybe 50, 100 million per day of volume. So that's what, in terms of Bitcoin, say divide by 1,000, 100,000 Bitcoins traded a day. So you can see here we're down, even the top markets here are 2,000. So you're a lot, these markets are less efficient, way less people, way less volume. And actually in Poloniex, they trade about 70 of the 700 altcoins out there. Most of these are shit coins. Most of them are just nothing. And you can go right down, look, down the bottom, this, whatever, quick buck.
What?
Quick buck.
This, key buck. It's a quick buck. It's probably not far from the truth. It's probably a scam coin. That trades 1 Bitcoin per day. So that means that there's no volume, very few people trading it, very inefficient market. So think of this initially as a casino. This is the sharks table, and down here is the noobs, right? So pick something in your range. If you're gonna like put in $100 and you're a noob, don't pick a 100 Bitcoin table or 1,000. You get killed unless you're lucky. Pick something in the 50 range, or because if you're a big stakes player, you're going to go to the big table because you don't have the patience to put in a $10 bet down here. So once you're in there, so I'm on XMR, this is Monero. And this is how it's trading. And this is what you're trying to learn is these patterns. Can you see that pattern there? That pattern there says whenever it hits this line where I've got it, that's the support level. And
The lower bound.
the lower bound is like, it's saying previously when it reached downwards to this lower bound, people said, no, I'm going to reject that drop. I'm going to buy up cheap. And you see it many times. It dropped there and it got support. And here it seems that was a temporary upper bound where it had a resistance. So traders often like to go, that's resistance, that's support, let's bounce up and down between it, buy, sell. And you can see there's a trend line there coming up. So I'm just going to jump to the next one where you can get to some something like a trader's desk. Gosh, I mean, I can't get that disappearing. So here's Monero again, and I've just drawn a green line there, right? That's the support, and I'm going to. I can't even see the. Oh, okay. I haven't logged in. So I was going to draw a line from here, and you can see there's an upward trend line.
Very
See
steep
that?
one, yeah.
I could draw a line on that. You can see it's just bouncing off that upward trend line. Okay, and then it was coming up to what looked like historic resistance. So there was an upward trend line. You can see there's a line. Imagine a line. I want you to draw it. And then you can see there was another line here coming down. See? And that's what you called a pennant pattern. I call it a wedge. These are very common patterns. So it's saying, this is upward support. I'm building more and more support up here. It's bouncing, and it's doing this over what? Almost 2 days. So it's very reliable. And then we saw two peaks, and there's a downward line there saying that was resistance and coming downwards. And it comes to this pennant tip where shit's gonna get real.
Willie, isn't this just like seeing faces in clouds though?
What's that?
Isn't it just like seeing faces in clouds?
Nope. Because when everyone sees those faces and they all trade accordingly,
They're real.
they're real because they trade on them. So here they can go, shit's gonna get real.
So imagine you can't see like to the right of where your cursor is, and you just have this.
Yeah, you go, you know shit's gonna get real. You don't know which way it's gonna go. And people are gonna do all sorts of analysis. And up here are all sorts of analysis. This is relative strength indicator. They do all sorts of numerical crunching on volume. This is traded volume of how much people are trading. And so this indicator, whenever it gets above the pink, it's redlining overbought. When it's under here, it's oversold. So look at down here. It's like it went ooh, bang, and it hit there, and it got out of bound. And says, whoa, everyone's lost their mind. They've dumped like crazy because of fear, and it's like it's out of bang. And so you can use that. And when you see like where the shit got real there, it peaked and it almost got into out of bounds. Then people said, no, come on, let's get real. It's got to get back down. And then it did drop, and it dropped way below, and it just decided to pick that support where there was volume as the bounce pattern. So you can see, and then it set up another wedge pattern. You see that? It's another pennant pattern forming. So these are like, I think of it as ice skating events. And ice skaters go in, and you'll see them skate on this rink, and then they set up for a move, like a triple axel. And they have to complete the move before the next pattern. So this was a big triple axel here, and then this was a connecting move, and then it entered the other move, and then it broke out, and then it's so you can see these patterns form, and very unlikely they'll break out of a pattern mid execution, unless an exchange gets hacked or some crazy news and everyone runs.
Then all bets are off, yeah.
Then the ice skater will like break out of a mid somersault and get off the rink. And
what about trading puts, Willie? I used to day trade. So you can trade a call, but you can also trade a put, which is trading that the price is actually going to go down, which opened up manipulation and away it all went. So you could be really good with all of your graphing, but manipulation was to go down, and of course down it went. So can you trade puts also on Bitcoin or only calls?
Yes, you can. You can. There's an options market called
Yes,
Deribit,
yes.
and you can. The way to trade them is to look at the price graph and to do your long-range analysis.
Yes.
And you say, look, this is well undervalued. You can look at it. You say the market's in fear. It's going to go up, and then you put your call accordingly. But it's not as you don't see the pattern. You get all these sort of numerical data points, and then there's all the strategy which Ivana could talk about ideal ways to do that. I could talk about it, but it's another rabbit hole.
But it just makes manipulation come into it. So I wondered what's the manipulation for trading with Bitcoin?
You don't really have futures markets for these altcoins, though. So it's
You
actually
do. You do.
Oh,
but,
do you really?
yeah, there's huge futures markets.
Wow.
There's,
News to me.
BitNex, I think, for some of them. The Chinese exchanges had futures, but the main thing was the China exchange had 0 fees, so you could trade till the cows come home for free, and then you could have leverage on top, like I don't know, it was 10 or 20x leverage. So you can not only boost your volume by your trading bots trading each other, you could go 20x on leverage. So you could really shift the market, and that's what we saw back in the January, December phase, where China was $100 above the US dollar because they had the leverage and they could manipulate the markets. And so when you go back to our little old humble Poloniex, note that these markets are heavily manipulated. So it's good training. You'll know, like, these markets are such small markets that the distribution of coins is very, very clumpy. So you'll go to Made, and Made, you might find there's a guy that owns 5% of the money supply, and he's got $500,000 sitting in here ready to push this price wherever he wants. And you'll sometimes see it in the order books. See, this is Monero, and it's very smooth. But sometimes you get these order books where, so the order books is, this is current price. And when you put in an order, you say, I want to buy a certain quantity at a certain price. Say the price is currently here around looks like high 140s. And you say, oh, that's overpriced, I want to buy here. And there's a lot of people buying here, so the order books are filling up, and this is saying how many coins want to be bought at these prices cumulatively. And sometimes you see this cliff where someone puts down an order of like 100 Bitcoins on a tiny little market, and it's just trying to scare the market upwards. Same as a sell wall trying to scare the market downwards. And you'll see this, and this is the stuff you want to learn. You want to start to see how markets are manipulated. There's many ways it can be manipulated. But more than that, I want you guys to just know how to read these kind of patterns. So when you go and change your US dollars to Indonesian rupiah or buy your next house, and you look at the market signals, you can pick the best opportunity. And this is what, I mean, normally I do Bitcoin related long-term investment stuff. And this week I just got more focused on altcoin trading. I ran a little survey on Twitter, and it turned out 2/3 of my Twitter followers were altcoin traders as much as investors. So I put up some more altcoin stuff, and I did this thing here. I basically did a lot of these indicators are based on, you know, this is called MACD, very reliable. You can see when MACD crosses, like the 2 lines cross, there's stuff that happens here, like it just changed. Blue line above the orange means bullish, it's climbing. When blue line drops below the orange, it's predicting, it's saying it's in a bear phase. And so you see there, it said it crossed from bullish to bearish, and it did switch the other way. And traders look at that as a very close indicator of when the market changes. So I'll just pick another one here. So if you go down there, it was bullish, and then it switched to bearish, and it just didn't quite peak it. To get the peak, But even there, it's about here, and you could have sold and you could have saved yourself losing down to here. And then it crossed. So that's an indicator, and it's just number magic that you do. And I've been working on one, and started up a group yesterday, and this is really just testing my signals against these traders who are looking for signals. They're always looking for the right coins. You can see there's 700 markets to trade. There's 70 on this market, but to look at every, you don't want to scan through 700 markets to look at these patterns. You want someone to tell you, hey, keep an eye on this one. So I came up with something last week that does scan through hundreds of coin markets and looks for patterns where it's going to break out. And so this is just something like, I run something on my computer and it comes up with the market, and it's got an estimated breakout pattern. So it's got an ETA on when it's going to do something interesting and break from one pattern to the next. Like I was saying with the ice skating dude who's about to switch moves. This is a predicted range of dates when they're going to switch moves. And so that's useful because it's going to say you can expect a breakout. You know, the price might go up, might go down, but it's going to be violent, and you want a violent move because that's when traders make money. And the wind-up period is how long the pattern has been trading for. And so the bigger the pattern wind up, the bigger impact it has for the long-term trends. So these are little ones, 3 or 4 day patterns are probably little small bumps that you can make a few percent, maybe 5% on. This is probably a sea change, where it's might be a 30% change. It might not be violent over one day. It might be, a multi-month move.
So that's how long the pattern has been showing, or that's when 32 days from now is when something will happen?
No, this is when something's going to happen, and that's 32 days that's been that pattern.
That 32 days of data support that pattern.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to SDC and find out.
Tomorrow's a big day.
SDC.
It's February.
Yeah. Well, there's a range. There's an error range.
Wait, how transparent is this exchange with how do we know it's not fractional?
We don't. There's all sorts of shenanigans that go on. I think some of them, this one's based in America, so they do get regulated some level. Mt. Gox was the Wild West days where, all that stuff happened. Yeah, it is risky. Don't put money in here that you're willing to not lose, like this is an educational exercise. I wouldn't stick big money in here. Like if I'm buying a big chunk of coins, it's the cheapest place to go rather than say Shapeshift. Because Shapeshift will give you the market rate and then it's gonna apply their fees on top. Rather than that, I'll just pick the timing, put the order in and let it sit and come back tomorrow, and usually it will fill at a lower rate. But just going back to this was Shadow Cash, SDC, 32-day build up. Did you see that February 2nd? This is Shadow Cash, and let's zoom into this. Yep, that's a logo. Click on there. Okay, this is Shadow Cash. And it's saying we're around the end of January, so it was right around here that the pattern built up. So it's saying it's picked up a pattern around here that it's starting to see, and it does look like a pennant pattern. And you might say it goes back here, but it doesn't because it slices that. So the pennant pattern went down to here and there, and it ended around here. So it's oh wait, shit. 32 days, way back here. Way back here. Okay, it's beyond.
So that's a larger pennant?
It's a very, it's a major sea change it's picking up, which I put in there. I get like top X markets and then I filter it. But yeah, see it's saying around here, the build up to this pattern was. right? So we've had an up, we're going down. So it's saying either this long-term support is going to break. You see it's bouncing off that support line. And comes between 2nd and 8th of February, there's an opportunity for something interesting to happen, and it's going to break downwards. Or it's going to bounce into a sea change, into a bull market again.
How can you tell if it's going to break down or break up?
You don't know for sure. You can, the best, maybe the conservative traders will wait for confirmation. They'll see it start to move. And that's when they go past a certain range, say that's confirmed. And when it's not just the price moving, it's the price moving with confirmation of volume. If it's light, like one dude traded it down, it doesn't mean nothing. If like a big chunk of money says it's going down, that's confirmed. It needs volume.
And that can be the manipulator.
It can be the manipulator, and you see this in these kinds of markets a lot. It's like, and you'll see it is like positive news is about to be released, and it goes down, and that's because they want to manipulate the price down so they can scoop up all your cheap coins. Usually it's a 10% move. They'll wait till you get freaked out at 5% loss, gets to 10% loss, and then they'll buy up all your coins real cheap, and then they let it go, and they wait for the rebound, and you'll notice
Your roadkill.
So you've got to have resolve. You've got to have balls of steel if you're sure. So like it becomes, you're dealing with sharks here. So I think it's a really great thing to trade this stuff, to learn that, but don't use real money. Like I'll show you this one. I was trading this one. Right, and if you live trade it, you start to see the shenanigans. Like I was live trading it, and I was like, man, this is totally manipulated. And I was like, that's what I would do if I had piles of money. And it was, let's look at this last formation to the, this is great. Let's check into the 4-hour candle. This is the build up of May to their beta release. And so they came off a big kind of bull market, and it came all the way down, and it balanced out, and then I think it was it here, somewhere around here, I think. It was, it was there. I entered here in this market here, and I was watching it, and you could see these order books. These order books weren't looking natural. See, that's not a very natural looking order book. It's at 20 bitcoins, and that's at 40. Someone with 20 bitcoins is loaded up a buy order. That's just one person. So when you see these crazy little things and they shift quickly, you know that's just one person shoving things around. It's not a real market. And you're going, oh, I'm just trying to intimidate, whatever. So this was just before a positive announcement. And you saw it drop away like that. I was like, that's great. So I just started buying down here. I bought. And then they stopped the suppression because the positive news was positive. But they, when it came out, they dumped it because everyone was trying to go the other way. So their bet is to scare views out of your coins, buy it off you cheap, and then watch the market bounce back. And then so they double their money rather than just going up like that. They force you down, buy there, and they double their range of trade, and then they dump on you.
But that's not always what happens, especially in advance of like some binary news that's going to come out, like a beta release. That could be insider trading. Someone who knows that they're going to push the release date, or like a merger deal didn't go through, or that could be people front running some bad news, and that's why people get out.
Remember, this is
or they get scared.
This is positive news. This isn't the case when everyone's expected positive news, and it is coming out. They force the market in the wrong direction, counterintuitively, to force all the noobs.
But I mean, who's in there selling and panicking at that moment? There are people who think that somebody knows something that I don't. Like there's some catastrophe, or the release is going to be delayed, or there's some insider trading that that I don't know about. I don't have perfect information, so I've just lost 10%. You know, maybe somebody knows something I don't know. I think I'm going to get out before I lose 20%.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to get you to think, right? So this is part of the thing with these inefficient markets is not everyone has all the information. It's not a level playing field, and there's not a lot of people playing. But the only here you can start to see the players on the you watch that in real time. It shifts around, and this made market. Oh my God, is this made? Yeah. If you saw this graph last night, it was like big mountain, huge buy support, huge natural looking mountain like that. Then this morning I looked into it, and this big mountain in 1 second disappeared. It looked like this for 5 seconds, and then went back up to normal again. Someone reset their bot. They had hundreds of $1,000s powered up on their computer program to trade for them. And they set up and they shaped that order book. Natural markets don't work like that. So when I see something like that, and I see announcements that's positive, and suddenly there's this intimidation going down on the order books, I go, that's not natural. And so that just goes, oh well, I'll take that bluff and I'll buy it.
I remember there was a website called Mt. Gox Live, and it would show you the history. So it would show you like an after effect of the graph. So it would sort of be different shades of grey to show what it looked like an hour ago, 2 hours ago. So
if you're a programmer, which you can, I've started doing, but I haven't completed the work, is you can log that and play it back and sort of time lapse and go, whoa, look at that change. That's a manipulated market versus an actual market, which is contiguous. So anyway, you can see all this stuff, and you can trade that, and this really is like playing poker in a card game, because it's like not only are you playing against another person who's manipulating up and down, up and down, up and down, but they're doing it with technical indicators. They're going, oh, support, resistance. So they're really pushing the technical indicators, and they don't go against the technical indicators because that's really hard to do. All traders obey it. So you really learn fast. And
some traders are using divination with pendulums and things. So you've got to take that into account as well.
Astrology.
Yeah,
actually, some people use all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Really
So you've got to factor that in.
So, but yeah, there's your little 101 on.
I always have my dowsing rod next to me when I'm trading.
But there's people who scan Twitter for sentiment. People who follow Twitter and all these traders that are pumping stuff. They say, buy this, and they buy it. And because everyone's buying it, it actually goes up. And then they're the first to dump. And so there's all these guys on Twitter accounts. And a lot of these shitcoin traders are looking for news like that, because they're all playing the same game.
That's why it's called a troll box, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a troll box. Troll box, they have rules actually on Poloniex, and all that, set price targets and all that. Yep. Anyway, that's trading.
All right. Now I'm frightened to death. I have no idea how to swim in shark-infested waters.
So throw in your $50, and Mark of Onion tried it. Learning heaps. He's kind of addicted to it, but he put in $100. I think what did he say? He tripled his money, 10x'd his money.
Really?
Yeah, he bought one of these crazy coins that went released, and it went 15x in one day. And he rode that. So yeah, you can have a lot of fun.
Beginner's luck.
But don't put much money in it. I saw someone posted his story that he put something like $50,000 in, and then he rolled it into Ethereum Classic, turned it into $150,000, and then switched it back to Ethereum and did this and that, and it came back to, and he was like down to 10,000. He lost $40,000 of his money, but peaked at 100,000 profit. This is all in a week or two. And then he said, I haven't told my girlfriend yet, but I think she's going to dump me. And he confessed into this trading group. And we were all like, some of them were laughing, some of them were like really empathetic. But don't do that. Put $100 in, learn it.
Well, life circumstances can affect the way our psychology of our trading. Like when I dumped all my Bitcoin, I had a near-death experience the day before, so I was still in that sort of strange sort of fear-based mode. So
That's what the divination rod tells you.
It's hugely emotionally, your emotional state. If you're confident, you'll trade with confidence. It was like one of the guys, he's the expert trader. He's in our kind of private group, and he's like day trader. We always be like, hey Sean, what do you think of this? We double check with him, and he's just trading this coin that he knows, and it keeps faking out on him. This is over the course of 1 year, and he holds a lot of it. He thinks it's the bottom now, and he's holding on. It goes down, and so it hit the bottom, and he knew it was the bottom, but it'd been faked out 3 times prior. He said, I'm not confident anymore, so he didn't buy at that point, and it was the bottom. So he lost his confidence. It's just huge. It's huge confidence and emotional sort of thing. Yeah, cool. So
all right, thanks, man.
There you go. Yeah,
Good stuff.
Yeah.
We have to have a clinic, trading clinic.
Yeah, it's definitely a.
All right, guys, let's talk about Bitcoin again. We've been looking at this clock for the last few weeks, and if you remember, the minute hand indicates when the difficulty will change, and it changes about every 2 weeks, right? So 2 weeks it'll be down here, and then 2 weeks it'll be up here, and then 2 weeks it'll be down here, 2 weeks up here. But it's counting blocks, not time. So you can tell that we're going. The Bitcoin clock is moving very quickly until the difficulty changes. You can see this the last time that the Bitcoin network decided to change difficulty was right here, right? And you can see that before the change, this is the actual difficulty, and then this is all the computing power that's more powerful than the current difficulty, right? So whenever these lines, these are moving averages here, but just look at the green line. If the green line is above the difficulty level for that 2 week period, then you know it's going to jump up, right? So it jumps up, and then it's kind of rides that difficulty line, and then more people get involved, and you can expect that the difficulty will get even more next time it changes because all of these averages are above the difficulty level, right? So this is just something to understand about how Bitcoin works, and this is just more and more computing power getting involved in the Bitcoin network. So what that does is it could mean that transactions are clearing more quickly. Right, I think JP, you said one of yours you got your first confirmation after 2 minutes.
Yep.
Right, and sometimes you can have Bitcoin blocks that the average is supposed to be 10 minutes, but if these trend lines are above the difficulty level, then you can expect that it's gonna happen in less than 10 minutes.
Well,
so
even if it's happening every 10 minutes, you could still have a 2 minute confirmation if you're 8 minutes in.
Right, because it's a matter of luck, right? We're brute forcing a problem, and somebody could luck out, and that's why it's an average.
Sometimes it's like busters, 3 will come along at once, and then you'll be waiting 40 minutes for the next one. I mean, that does happen.
It's probabilities, eh?
It does.
Probabilities. It's not plots.
Right, but what's interesting is we've been having trouble with confirmation times, and this is why I'm describing this for you. This guy, he's a computer science guy, and this is a bit of a dry paper, but he basically has a very good theory that the Bitcoin network is getting spammed. So someone is trying to cause problems with confirmation times by timing their spam attack in coincidence with these difficulty changes, right? So what he did was he said, okay, let's look at the confirmation times, and here is the difficulty change. That's what this red line is, and then all of these Bitcoin transactions hit the network. These very expensive Bitcoin transactions hit the network, and our transaction times got way out of whack. You can see we peaked shortly after the difficulty change. That's because if you go back here, you can see that they're waiting for the difficulty to change, and then they're dumping the network directly after that difficulty changes, right? So instead of you getting 10-minute blocks, maybe they can push it to 15 minutes, 20 minutes, because they're dumping right after the difficulty changes, right? And you can see the difficulty remained there for the first part of this 2 week period.
Oh, so that's when they spend it.
Right, so that's when they spend it. So actually this is a, let me see if I can get this to look normal.
But spamming is selling transactions,
Yeah, well, were they free transactions? Or were they
No, I'm going to talk about that.
But that's nothing to do with mining.
It does have to do with mining power. check this out. This is a graph. This is if the difficulty hadn't changed, what would the mempool size become? So the blue line is what really happened, and the green line is what would have happened if the difficulty hadn't changed, right? So if you still have the same amount of mining power, and the difficulty doesn't change, then you don't get the mempool spike like this. So this is his smoking gun that somebody was trying to time it right after the difficulty change, because if the difficulty hadn't changed, you would have had this green, the mempool would have been relatively normal, but instead it was way out of whack.
Do you guys see the trading pattern on that? I see a pin pattern in there.
Yeah, you see it.
That's the green line.
Yeah. There's a lower bound, so it might be hard.
And then the blue line too.
So this is really interesting. So, and he identifies these several addresses, and he says this is where these particular addresses that he has found are the culprits, and they're all involved. They all correlate with these huge jumps. And I actually looked at one of these addresses, and you can't really see it. It's a pity because it's so whacked out here. But basically, this is. I think this is, let me see. Yeah, this is one transaction. Check this out. These are all the inputs for one transaction. The fee for this transaction was $86. $86 for one transaction. There's all these inputs and then all these outputs. Sorry, I know it's a big jumble, but I mean, you can see why this would be a very expensive transaction for the network to handle. And the price per Satoshi that he's paying for this transaction is 110 Satoshis per byte, which is over the norm. So he's getting this huge transaction onto the network. He's paying a little bit more in terms of Satoshis per byte, or basically the fee per byte of his transaction. And this one transaction is pushing out, this is a 9 meg transaction, or I'm sorry, a 95 kilobit transaction. So he's pushing out, a regular transaction is about 136.
1/10 of the block.
Right, and this is 9,000. So yeah, he's trying to jam this one transaction with the most expensive fee, and he's pushing out everyone else's normal activity. Right, so this is
An expensive
So
habit.
did you?
it's expensive to do it, but if you've got millions and millions of dollars and you're backing Bitcoin Unlimited.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you're Roger Ver and you've got hundreds of millions of dollars, it's looking like somebody with that kind of money is pushing these transactions, waiting for the difficulty to change, and then just pushing these transactions onto the network. And this is just one transaction.
I posted something on the Twitter, and it's how much it costs to attack the network. With a 51% attack, if you buy half the mining power to block the network by blocking the miners, or doing that. And this is like almost 100 times cheaper. It's like less than $100,000 per day. You can keep blocking the network for $100,000 a day, and which is quite cheap compared to $15 billion of value on the network.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, Bitcoin exists in the wild. It's just running out there on the internet. Anybody can do anything to the Bitcoin network. And this transaction is perfectly legal. It's something that the Bitcoin network allows. But this person is not, this is a weird transaction that's probably not real. And it's designed to basically show that the current state of Bitcoin is not healthy. Right, push all the transactions onto the network. So people like JP have a problem when she's trying to buy Pulsa, right? Or we have a problem when we go out to Kismet and pay for our meal. This is a bad actor that's trying to make a point. It's an editorial transaction.
It's temporary, eh?
It's temporary, yeah. Let's look at some of these. So here's the current state. The current state of the network is suggesting 90 Satoshis per byte for a transaction, and the mempool peaked earlier today at 40 megabytes. So every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin blockchain grows by 1 megabyte. So they try and fit all the pending transactions into 1 megabyte. But at this point in time, 40 megabytes were waiting to get in there, right? So 40 megabytes of transaction are just waiting. And all that 40 megs is trying to make it into the next 1 meg. And this bad actor is submitting a transaction, paying a premium on the fee, and getting his one transaction when that could consist of thousands and thousands of transactions, normal transactions that are trying to get on, but maybe they paid 80 Satoshis per byte, thinking that that would be enough, right? So you can see this was a spike last week, and here's another one that happened. And I like to come here and look at the oldest transactions in the mempool. You can see they're going all the way back to the 29th. What's today, the 31st? So there are transactions that have been hanging since 2 days ago. So pretty fascinating. Yeah, these are, you can see these are this is a representation of the Bitcoin blocks, and this is the transaction count waiting. So you can see there were 60,000 transactions waiting to be cleared. So pretty crazy. This is what's happening with miners' revenue, and because that spammer pushes the transaction fees up into the stratosphere, you can see there's a definite uptrend in miner revenue. The Bitcoin price hasn't been moving that much. This is in US dollars. We keep trying to find this in Bitcoin. I'll bet it's out there somewhere, but I haven't found it. But there is a definite uptrend here in the amount of money miners are making, and this is partly due to these spam attacks. Whoever is flooding the network with these $86 transactions is driving the fee market to the north and making things more profitable for these miners.
It's also because there's competition, because the blocks are full, so there's demand supply.
Right. Each of these blocks is, you can see this one was 998, 999 kilobits, 998 kilobits. They're all just jam-packed with transactions. So it's a little bit of a log jam. That means that there's a competition for the fees. But here's a measurement of the user experience. This is median confirmation time. This is posting a value, and on a certain day we had an average of 30-minute block time. That's 3 times what's normal. And you can see there's definitely something going on during this period of time. It was pretty normal in through here.
Sometimes blocks can be 40 minutes apart. So is this based on block spacing to come up with this, or is it going with the US?
This is on a daily basis the average confirmation time for that day.
Oh, daily.
Yes.
It's pretty,
So it should be pretty flat and predictable.
Median, so it's even better. It filters out those weird 40-minute gaps.
So you can see, Houston, we have a problem here at the end, and maybe this is part of the, if it is all spam, this is the editorial statement being made by the spammer that the Bitcoin network is not doing a satisfactory job of clearing transactions in a timely way. All right, any questions on that? Is that too techie, nerdy for you guys? Let's bring it out a bit. So there are 2 solutions on the table for us fixing this logjam problem. One of them is called SegWit, or Segregated Witness, in conjunction with Lightning Network. This is basically something that takes a little piece of information out of every transaction, so that helps with the throughput. And the Lightning Network allows various parties to set up off-chain transactions that use Bitcoin as collateral, right? So I can do 1,000 transactions in Ubud, and then nightly I can just reconcile with the Bitcoin blockchain, and I only have to pay 1 transaction fee instead of all of those transactions one by one for hamburgers and cups of coffee, etc. So this is one of the solutions that's on the table to be done, but obviously the powers that be, the miners and the coders and the users, can't agree that this is a good solution. And so this guy, Charlie Lee, was the person who created Litecoin. Litecoin is an altcoin. This is one of the, Willie was talking about this altcoin market, and you had all those coins. Litecoin was one of the first alternatives to Bitcoin. It's basically a fork of Bitcoin, and then they tweak some of the ways that it works. And it's been bumping along. It's been surviving and trading and happening for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. But it hasn't really had too much development. But this guy, this is the originator of it. He actually works for Coinbase. He's like the chief technology guy at Coinbase, or But he said, you've probably seen that I recently started advocating for Segregated Witness to activate on Litecoin and Bitcoin. I wasn't doing any of this before because it would be wasted energy when the code was not finished. But now that the release candidate code is tagged, the binary is close to release, I figured it's time to start making some noise. So what he's suggesting is, because there's gridlock about Bitcoin and Segregated Witness, that he's like, let's do it on Litecoin and see if it works there. So he's proposing turning Litecoin into a test net for Bitcoin. Now, this is fascinating because Bitcoin is, I mean, some of the use cases for Bitcoin are going away. You know, if it ends up costing me $1 to buy my lunch at Kismet, I won't use Bitcoin. That's just too much. You know, if I'm paying $5 for lunch and it costs $1 to send my Bitcoin transaction, I'm not going to do it, right? So it's an existential threat to some of the utility of Bitcoin itself. So this is the problem. And he's saying, you know, we can test this solution on Litecoin, but here's another thing that's really intriguing that he's suggesting. Another benefit is atomic cross-chain transactions via Lightning Network. 2 users can trade Bitcoin and Litecoin instantaneously and without risk. Efficient decentralized exchanges are now possible. Or what if a merchant accepts only Bitcoin and you have only Litecoin? You can now pay Litecoin and exchange them instantly through a Lightning node exchange node and send Bitcoin to the merchant. That's basically decentralized shapeshift. One thing I thought...
Wouldn't it need both to have the Lightning?
Yeah, they would both have to have this Segregated Witness and Lightning Network implemented. But, you know, he's kind of looking into the future and he's pushing for Segregated Witness to happen. And he's saying this will be one of the benefits.
Oh, that's cool.
I think it is cool. I mean, the idea of having Bitcoin as gold and Litecoin as silver. I mean, you know, there is a beauty in it. I think, you know, having what's the word? You know,
yeah, diversity.
It's a network of networks, isn't it?
You know, I think it's necessary.
Well, and as long as both of those networks are secured, I mean, because really, you know, secured in a decentralized way. If Lightning Network has enough hashing power and Bitcoin has enough hashing power, so that both networks are unassailable, then you start to get that kind of scalability. Because you can use Litecoin, you can use Bitcoin. You know, maybe we figure out that we're going to use Litecoin in Ubud because we're only buying $5 meals, not $90 meals like Los Angeles.
Just using Bitcoin is like having a car with only one gear. I mean, it just doesn't work. You need many gears, and maybe you need those gears at different points.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more like having different cars. You know, you've got your SUV and then you've got your 2-door convertible, and you've got a garage full of cars, and you pick the right one for the right day. And your garage is the Lightning Network.
So this is utopia when they both have both, but he's saying with SegWit and Bitcoin's current block scaling deadlock, I see a potential for Litecoin to help Bitcoin break through this deadlock. Litecoin can take the lead and be a positive force in the cryptocurrency space. We have been drafting behind the Bitcoin race car for many years. Hey, there's your car reference. It's about time we take a turn out front. So I thought that was really fascinating. And, you know, there's so much money at stake and there's so many smart people. It's just...
He's the brother of Bobby Lee.
BTC China?
Yeah.
Is he really?
And the founder of Litecoin.
This incestuousness. Anyway, I thought this was also interesting. This is the Litecoin difficulty, and you can see just in January how it's definitely trending up. So people are taking an interest in Litecoin, and it's also reflecting in the price. Litecoin is up 4.8% on this kind of news that people are talking about.
Is it merge mined? No.
I don't know.
That's been $4 for years. I remember $4 seems to be what it was years ago.
Yeah, it's long term.
Yeah, it kind of bumps along, but this is definitely a correlate to this suggestion that Litecoin can implement Segregated Witness and be a test net for
You know,
Bitcoin.
the news today, it went live 8 hours ago.
Oh, the implementation of SegWit on Litecoin?
Yeah, it's live.
Ah.
Is it activated?
It activated today. That's why.
It's what, 95% threshold?
Don't know.
So homework for tonight: go see if someone was pushing the Litecoin price down in advance of that news to support Willie's lesson earlier.
I signaled it to go up.
Did you?
Well, I didn't.
And did you know about the
numbers
news,
did.
or did you just read that in the technical signal?
Technical signal. Doesn't know
Ah.
anything about news.
That's the divination rod aspect. That's fascinating. So here's the other guy, Bitcoin Unlimited. I don't know who that is, but that's a freaky photo. I just want to like not look at
Looks
that.
like Boy George.
Announcing Bitcoin Unlimited General Release 1.0. When is this dated? Friday at 2
Wow,
p.m.
they must be ahead of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's at 0 point.
This is the arch rival nemesis of Segregated Witness. This is the other suggested fix where they change the block size itself and highlighted this. The most important feature of Bitcoin Unlimited first general release is functionality to restore market dynamics at the discretion of the full node network. Activation will result in eliminating the artificial full blocks handicap, restoring a healthy fee market, allow reliable confirmation times, fair user fees, and reigniting stalled network effect growth. If that doesn't sound like a political statement, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound like a stump speech?
Yep.
It's really interesting how, you know, we try and create this technology that like
Is it gonna
divorces us from politics.
It's a reflected system.
Yeah,
Is
the
it gonna
politics
ignite
just
the
comes
pure
back.
DNA?
These damn humans just they start meddling again and making promises.
Yep.
But
The product.
here's a it's a horse race, right? Here's Segregated Witness. They've got 23% of the last, I don't know, 1,000 blocks. Bitcoin Unlimited has 19% of the last 1,000 blocks, and neither of these will work unless they can get up near here, and they work at the expense of the other in most cases. So
It's going to die.
so
Like,
that's why people come up with this
No,
Litecoin.
Unlimited only needs to get to 50, isn't it?
That's what I heard, but on Reddit. But then something like 75%. I heard again 75% was the threshold.
Well, I mean,
There's no threshold. It could activate now. I mean, there is no threshold.
Yeah, that's what I said. But look, you know, that's what Reddit said. But then some other things said.
well, but it would be hard coded.
75%.
Like all the clients would have some sort of determinant, right?
Well-
After which they
well-
would start building on the unlimited blockchain as opposed to.
Unlimited and current version are compatible until a miner mines a bigger than 1 megabyte block. So some people are saying that it's active. They're just running it, but it'll only fork when a miner goes to go bigger.
They actually tried to create, I think, a larger block. I read about this on
Oh, yeah.
Reddit, and
what happened?
and basically they lost the block reward because they lost their
That's a lot of money.
gumption.
That's a lot of money.
Well,
Yeah.
that's obvious that would happen now. I mean, you'd be stupid to do it before it gets to 50%. Because
Oh, right.
Well, maybe it was just I don't know, again, a political statement to put that on the block and see how many people jumped on.
Do you see there's a bug with the Unlimited release? And
Maybe that's why they lost their block reward.
and anyone processing more than something like 900 kilobytes, those blocks get rejected if you're running Unlimited. So they've had to throttle down their maximum block size, and it's holding up the network because the core stuff can process a bigger block than Unlimited, and all Unlimited nodes are reducing. So it's funny because it's like this thing that wants bigger blocks is actually, because they've got this bug, it's making it smaller.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. All right, let's get into some I don't know, less technical stuff. I've got a friend in Prague right now. Well, I think you know him.
Oh, see.
He's trying to buy coffee in Prague, and I actually talked with him about this. He said, I'm no longer buying coffee in Prague because the fee is 20 cents and the coffee is $1. So the price to buy a cup of coffee, it cost me 20%. So I don't do it anymore. Well, that's not the end of the bad news out of the Czech Republic. Check this out. ID required to buy a coffee with Bitcoin in Czech Republic.
in cash.
No, this is when you pay with Bitcoin.
Why is
He's
that?
asking, and if you pay cash, you don't need same ID, right?
Well, the thing is, they're implementing know your customer and anti-money laundering rules, and if you're using Bitcoin, they want to know who you are because you might be a terrorist or a
Right.
drug
But
addicted to
Question
caffeine.
applies. If you walk in there with your cash, do they run the same KYC?
No, I don't think so. Well, let me read you a little bit. The Czech Republic's Ministry of Finance will also require cafes, schools, and various merchants accepting Bitcoin to verify the identity of their customers explains the recent report. Alongside this, the country's authorities will also soon add value-added tax to virtual currencies in the future. This is all because there's an extreme risk of potential abuse for committing tax fraud on your coffee. The recent announcement follows the European Commission's latest roadmap to curb the illicit use of cash and cryptocurrency. So maybe they will do KYC on cash. Who knows? I mean, cash is equally vilified these days, right? The Commission has also noted an urgency of addressing money laundering and criminal financing involved with these types of payments. The agency believes the biggest problem is anonymity, and certain restrictions need to be enforced against these private practices. Now, anonymity is directly related to fungibility, which is a fundamental tenet of useful money.
Correct.
Money needs to be fungible, ergo it needs to be anonymous. And so we've got a fundamental problem here. Our government's going to allow anonymous money. I mean, they're trying to get rid of cash. They're trying to do KYC on Bitcoin. And it kind of seems like we are not going to have anonymous money anymore, which means that if they don't like you, they can turn off your money, right? They can say, we don't want any Bitcoin that has touched JP's wallet. You know, they can basically shut you down.
They got cooties then.
So is that
I'll take your money,
suggesting
JP.
that you
I'll-
actually
I
have
don't-
it in your cold, isn't it, to have a cold wallet, to have it offline altogether, just have a little bit to play with, but
Well, the
cold
thing is,
storage
though,
actually better?
if they ever associate that Bitcoin address with your person, they can create a blacklist with your name on it, and then software will go through the blacklist, and you go to buy your coffee, and the coffee shop says, no, sorry, you're on
If you're the
the
person,
no-fly list.
if you're the person that's blacklisted, you only need to send one Satoshi to every address that's ever existed, and no one's blacklisted.
That's a
Well,
good
but no, but only
strategy.
for that one Satoshi that they can't spend.
You wouldn't take their whole wallet?
wallet.
Well, I mean, I don't know. They
Yeah,
might use,
yeah.
They just mix it, right?
No, I
You
like
just
that.
throw it
That's
through
a good trick. You should publish that.
yeah,
You just talk about mixing. Come on.
Now,
Well, the-
I am Spartacus.
Bitcoin mixers are also in the crosshairs. Check this out. They had a thing in Doha, Qatar, aimed to take action against digital currency mixers and tumblers, which is something that tries to reestablish anonymity for your cryptocurrency. So I don't know. It seems to me a war is brewing. You know, I think human beings need to have anonymous money. I mean, I think it's a fundamental right. If not, then, you know, if you have a group of dissidents, you can just turn off their money and then you never hear about them. This happened with WikiLeaks, which, you know, you can be for or against WikiLeaks, but you know, you can't deny that they were shut off without any due process in terms of getting payments. So there was no court, nothing actually happened in terms of jurisprudence, but the powers that be just, you know, Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, SWIFT, you know, shut them down, and they only survived because Bitcoin could send funds there. And
I reckon that we should look back in history and look at all the times when a democratizing technology comes out and the old powers try to fight against it, try and figure out who won. Like,
Well, the fungibility argument was first made by a bank. Like, it was a bank that basically created the case law argument for fungibility.
yes, because there was a bank robbery, right?
There wasn't a bank robbery. There was a bank note that got lost, and then when it finally turned up at another bank, and the bank tried, I think one bank sort of said,
Yeah, but I thought
well,
that bank note
no,
was originally a part of a bank robbery, and then the bank, you know, came back to them, and they realized like this note was from a bank robbery, so we want it back without having to give anything in return.
There was a robbery, and the bank note was owned by a non-bank, but it was the bank that didn't want to have to relinquish it, so they managed to create.
But the case law established that even though you could prove that that was at some point in time a stolen note,
because it was signed by me.
right? It was still legal tender, and the
the
function of money was more important than trying to track down.
So the bank created the fungibility.
Right. But now that we have computers, you could enforce that much more easily than back when that case law was established. And I have to presume that governments want that kind of control. They want to,
They do.
yes, they want to be able to shut you down. They want to be able to control society with money. Not only individuals, but if you have all of your money in a system, they can also impose negative interest rates or.
I think it's the governments that
But
want that.
like back to
I think it's the powers behind the
bankers.
governments that
Just-
want that.
just name
John
one
Banks.
time where a government or authority figure shut down a democratizing
arguments.
technology.
There's
I can't think of
one
any.
for
Where they shut down a democratizing
Like,
technology.
has the internet been shut down? Did say empires suppress democracy when people had firearms and they had the knights? You know, it's like when did a democratizing new technology get shut down by authorities and fully suppressed? And
You mean like the printing press
Japan
or?
banned fire weapons for firearms for centuries.
Correct, yeah.
When books were first mass produced, they were destroyed because it was a threat.
so who won?
And eventually, the books won and the gun.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, we never heard about the ones that we never heard about because they got suppressed.
They were in the books that were
Good
good.
That's true.
Good point.
That's true.
History.
That's a good point.
History is written
Man,
by
we were supposed to have
winners.
flying cars by now. Where do you think those guys are?
But no, surely, if there was a democratizing technology that tried and failed, there would be, because it's democratized, it's got to get out to people, and it failed, then we'd all know about that failure, right?
Free energy, man. Nikola Tesla. Look it up.
Free energy.
All right, let's go to China. We're starting to run out of time here, guys, but we're going to whip through a few of these last ones. China's central bank steps up efforts to create digital currency. Holy smokes. The People's Bank of China are on the bandwagon. China's central bank banned Bitcoin, the internet currency, from being used in the country's financial institutions. But lo and behold, they've got China Coin, or whatever they're going to call it. It's something of their own making that uses blockchain to create their own currency. Of course, it's all pre-mined, and for your convenience, they're going to manage all of your keys for you. So it's very convenient. But it does use blockchain technology, and I think it's, I don't know, I think it's just a funny stop along the road.
Weird, eh? Why wouldn't you just use a database?
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. Venezuelan authorities arrest 4 Bitcoin miners. Of course, everybody that's been coming on Tuesday nights is familiar with the Venezuelan Los Problemas in Venezuela. They've got hyperinflation, and these poor, oh, look at that, that's impressive. Look at that. Well, what's interesting about Venezuela is they have subsidized energy. So you can basically plug your Bitcoin rigs into an outlet and not pay for electricity. Looks like that's what these guys were doing, and create some money for yourself that isn't going to disappear tomorrow, right? These guys are starving. It's a really bad situation in Venezuela, and you'd think that the Venezuelan authorities would have bigger fish to fry than tracking these guys down. But let's see, Venezuelans are warming to Bitcoin as the worsening economic crisis has led to massive inflation and food shortages. Some Venezuelans are using Bitcoin to buy food, medicine, airplane tickets. Let's see, it didn't elaborate on how exactly Venezuelans pay for food with Bitcoin.
So what
but
law are they breaking?
The interesting thing is, I heard that they're using 1 ounce of getting $600 for 1 ounce of silver.
yeah,
They're
they're,
able to transact metals there now.
yeah, it's a real mess.
And they
What-
can actually get enough food for 6 months with 1 ounce of silver in
Oh,
Venezuela
wow.
right
That's
now.
good.
But if they were, I'll bet if they were caught doing that, they would be in trouble
Not yet.
I don't know.
because that would be a black market for money.
I'm not sure about the validity.
If you didn't have
But
food
that
for 6
always
months, you
happens.
wouldn't give a shit.
Yes.
It's a good
Well, they-
sign. It's a good sign.
Yeah,
That's happened here too, right? When the Asian market crashed and people just had to come up with their own ways of transacting with each other.
Mhm.
Governments didn't do
Well,
anything.
and so it's
about
especially egregious, at least in
Yeah.
my mind, that they're
It's a
busting these
revelation
Bitcoin
otherwise.
miners because these guys are just figuring out a way to.
But what law are they actually breaking? What
What they said was they were stealing the energy.
theft? So
Yeah.
so how is using a light bulb not stealing energy? I don't understand the distinction.
And they were subsidized power. They were
That's
paying for it.
right.
Yeah, but
It's just
still,
playing with
yeah,
the
but it's
rules.
still-
It's
what's
like the
the difference
Dell
between a light
hacker.
bulb and a
It's like the
Bitcoin
Dell
miner?
Hey,
hacker.
man.
It's within the rules.
How is running a light bulb not stealing energy in the same way?
Well, this is one of those things where
Yes.
they have selective enforcement of a rule on the books. That's exactly how it works.
But how is it stealing? They're setting a price. Presumably the miners were paying the price that was being set. How is that in any way theft?
It's communist.
Well, you
It's
should
not
go
free
do a
market.
pro bono represent. You can go represent those guys in Venezuela. Get them off the hook. You make a compelling case.
No, They need Trump.
I think you should go over and talk to the government. Tell them how it works.
But those guys aren't the only ones going to jail for Bitcoin mining. Check this out. Federal Reserve staffer fined for mining Bitcoins at work. How about that?
Whoa.
You think he's going to throw him in the
At the
clink?
Fed.
With there's 4 Venezuelans and 1 American guy in jail for
This guy's
Bitcoin
a
mining this
hero.
week.
That's not a step, that's a statue.
That's
Hold
a-
on, what? What? Federal Board of
This is a hero, right?
Yeah, he basically, it sounds like he was an IT guy and he just turned on one of the servers to mine
Yeah.
Bitcoins, but it was going on for 2 years. And they
Awesome.
caught him because he was like logging in at night and I don't know.
Was it
You know,
CPU
VPN
mining? Or
like a-
something?
Well, I'll bet the Fed has some pretty badass equipment.
They
So
wouldn't have ASICs, they
But
wouldn't.
they wouldn't be ASICs, which are ridiculous.
I don't know.
Oh,
All right,
Griff.
here's our man Griff.
He looks a bit green.
I think I might have to set you guys off on to listen to yourself to listen to this interview he did with Bitcoin Uncensored. These are the guys that take their shirts off at the end of their. Let's see these guys. They don't have any shirts on anymore. This is how the interview ends. So you can judge for yourself the level of discourse. Oh, there Griff has his shirt off. Wow.
They kind of.
Anyway, this is Griff's new undertaking, Giveth.io. It uses smart contracts to allow people to track their charitable donations. Right, so you give your charitable donation to some cause, and then presumably you're able to follow what that money gets spent on.
Given that Griff was the creator of ETC, shouldn't it be called Giveth?
Giveth. Yeah,
the
you-
creator of ETC.
Is it-
It's nice up
Well, this is
putting
ETH, right? That's ETH. Maybe it runs
He
on.
giveth.
It does run on. It does
He
run
giveth,
on.
doesn't
It
he?
does run. That's
He
quite
giveth
clever,
you a
actually.
new token.
Giveth. This is ETH is the symbol for Ethereum. I didn't even notice that, but anyway.
Look at the give ETC. Oh,
But anyway, these guys,
not
these
very
guys, you know, they're not very friendly. They're very kind of, you know, sometimes they attack the people they're interviewing, and if the interviewee can hold his own, then
Very hard to watch.
yeah, especially in this, they're just not
Sometimes
nice.
you
They're
want
just,
them to shut up so you can just hear the
Well,
other guy.
and you know, they try and expose a lot of things that they identify as Ponzi schemes, like pump and dump, looking for the next greater fool. A lot of those coins that we were talking about earlier fall into this category of like pump and dump or a Ponzi scheme, or looking for new investors to pay off old investors. That's the definition of a Ponzi scheme. And they were calling his project a Ponzi scheme.
All of his projects.
It's because it's become like a bit of a dog whistle, like you're a scammer, it's a Ponzi scheme. And Griff, although he was talked over a lot, said, this is not a Ponzi scheme because we're not returning anything to investors. People are just giving. They're just giving money to a charity. Like they're not expecting any money to come back. So they're not investing in anything. This is just a smart contract that allows you to track your donation. But they were like Ponzi scheme, Ponzi scheme. And then they ended up going back and describing Ethereum as a Ponzi scheme, which arguably by their definition might be. But I think Ponzi scheme is just not the appropriate word to use, because it, for me, yeah, the textbook definition of a Ponzi scheme is you use the funds of new investors to pay off old investors,
Correct.
right? But you, in the case of Ponzi, the actual guy Ponzi, there was only so much value, and he was selling more tokens that represented that same old value.
And if there's any difference between this and a bank?
Well, I mean, the whole United
Excuse
States
me.
dollar system could be
Excuse me.
construed as
Hello.
a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
But you know, they also say that Bitcoin was a Ponzi scheme until it wasn't a Ponzi scheme, and they have this word they made up called a natural Ponzi scheme, which is, you know, there isn't necessarily some scammer, but everybody who's making money is making money at the expense of the new people that come along, right? And if you're dealing with 100% speculative instruments, there is no real value. The real value is in some future that in most cases never arrives.
Also called multi-level marketing.
Well, multi-level marketing and pyramid schemes are also reselling the original value, even though there isn't any new value created.
But
Right.
the people who come on board most recently are the ones
Yeah.
who pay the old guys.
Right,
There's
but
a
that,
flow.
but that's true of anything that you're like Apple shares.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
if you bought Apple in 1985, you bought at a certain amount, and Apple itself became more valuable, and therefore the stocks became more
So is
valuable.
Apple a Ponzi scheme?
Well, that's actually
by their definition.
beneficial.
By their definition, yes.
When they
And that's-
when they say their definition, they comply to the World Bank research on Ponzi schemes, and in that report it says many Ponzi schemes are beneficial to society, such as these sort of investments that turn
Yeah, but-
productive. So it's really hard to put a label on one and ban it and regulate.
That's because we're using the same word for both the
That's
scam
right.
Well,
and the.
that's what they're saying is it's a grey line between one and the other, and you can't say that's bad and that's good. Somewhere in the middle, there's beneficial
But this guy
ones.
John Seth, before and after he takes his shirt off, is like Ponzi scheme, Ponzi scheme. It's a pejorative. It's a derogatory comment, and some of them might be Ponzi schemes. I mean, the distinction I would make is if you're showing up, and that's why I wanted to talk with you about OneCoin. These guys are a Ponzi scheme, and they know it.
Yes.
Like they're selling things they know there's nothing there, and they've got a big marketing machine, and they fill up auditoriums of people, and they make a bunch of hype about how OneCoin is way better than Bitcoin, and we're using the same word Ponzi scheme for these guys that are duplicitous. They want to rip people off. If I create a new coin and I think it's going to be better than Bitcoin, and I'm sincere, and we don't know, especially with crypto coins, if they're going to work. In order to work, everyone needs to buy into it. So it's not a function of the technology. And if I'm pumping it, it's not necessarily because I want the greater fool. It's because I want people to participate. And I'm just saying that we use the same word for these two things. And
Well, it's like Bitcoin. Bitcoin's associated with drugs and buying hitmen on dark markets, and you say don't use the word Bitcoin, so we create a blockchain. But actually, who gives? It's like Bitcoin's got to prove itself. Ponzi schemes prove themselves useful, and we all comply to using Ponzi schemes. So some are good, some are bad, just like Bitcoin uses.
well, we need to either make Ponzi scheme not a bad word, or we need a new word.
Well, if it's used so broadly, then it stops being a bad word, doesn't it?
I mean, do you ever think Ponzi
Well,
scheme is going to become a good
Bitcoin
word?
was a Ponzi scheme. They even say it.
I
It
think
was
it's
a Ponzi
forcing us to
scheme.
use new vocabulary altogether,
True.
It's like blockchain.
like transition instead of Ponzi. It's a transition.
Yeah, I suppose you could
Can you pass that?
You could do like a label on what's a negative one, where we just think
It's an alternative Ponzi.
it's like what's
Yeah.
it's
a
natural
Ponzoid.
Ponzi's and
Natural is weird.
naturally occurring Ponzi schemes, unintentional Ponzi's,
We've got
Natural,
to take Ponzi out.
natural, what.
naturally calling
I don't see
occurring
any
blockchains.
Ponzi schemes in nature, so
Yeah.
natural seems
Yeah,
a bit
natural.
strange.
All right, guys. I had a few other topics, but it seems we are out of time. Please let us know that you came tonight. They're passing around the thing.
The half.
You don't have to put your name in. I'm just trying to get a head count.
I came tonight.
Willie Woo was here
Just
in the
right,
house.
Just tell them.
Just tell them for
Just
us.
do it.
Okay, all right.
It's more efficient.
All right. All right, we do this every week, but I just wanted to remind you we've got a YouTube channel, and we do broadcast on YouTube. So if you ever miss, if you're not here with us, or if you're listening online and you're here with us in person, you can always check out these things after the fact on our YouTube channel. Check that out. We also meet every week in person at Hubud. Hubud's got a new website. Check this out. This is the Hubud website. They give us a nice, cool conference room to meet in every week. And if you're here in Bali, we hope you'll join us in person at Hubud. You can follow me. My name's Gary at DykstraNet. And you can find our man Willie Woo at DangerMouse117.
On Twitter.
And don't forget to check out bitcoinsinbali.org. And last but not least, our Facebook group, Bitcoins in Bali. This is where we get all of our news that we end up talking about. You'll see a lot of the stories that I talked about tonight will be posted in the Facebook group. If you're not in the Facebook group, get in there. All right, that's all we got for this week, guys. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next week. All right.
Are we going for dinner?
Yes, we're going to kids.